So describe how militarism was a cause to the First World War. Explain the Anglo-German naval arms race and how this increased tensions between Great Britain and Germany moving into the early 1900s and closer to World War One. There we go. Bless you. Bless you. No, all right. Oh man, where's he going? Need another minute? Okay, another minute. That's all it's submitted in there. Oh,
I'm doing it now.
oh yeah, it's weird. Stupid. Weird. Yeah, is this yours? So, just checking. So just a reminder, Jamie and Jasmine, current events for Friday. All right, militarism. What is it? Cassidy, what was militarism? What is it? What does it mean? Yeah, good job. So another cause to World War I. So already we talked about imperialism. We talked about nationalism. And now yesterday we talked about militarism. Okay. And how this is the glorification, the buildup of one's military. And the only way these countries were going to expand and become even more of a world power is if they build up their military, and if they tried to do a lot of funding and pushed a lot of efforts and investment into weaponizing their militaries. Okay, Germany especially, they're going through that second wave of the Industrial Revolution before many of these other countries. So they had these new forms of weaponry, advancements compared to other countries like France and even Great Britain at the time. All right, so with that being said, we talked about the Franco-Prussian War. Germany unified the country. They defeated France, no problem. They defeated Austria, no problem. And I showed you yesterday the rankings of these militaries. France and Austria were up there on the board with the largest land militaries in the world. And Germany mowed them over, really, one in 7 weeks and one in like 6-7 months. So it just goes to show their advancements, okay, their modernization, and really just how far advanced they are compared to these other countries, even in Europe, where all these this new form of modernizations coming out of. So with Germany, they are looking even more. Okay, I talked briefly yesterday. We already mentioned about Otto von Bismarck, how he was known for unifying Germany. The first Kaiser Wilhelm I, he was crowned after the Franco-Prussian War. And now, as we're building up to World War I have a term here for you. His name's Kaiser Wilhelm II, which is just the first Kaiser's son, right? And he's going to lead the charge of Germany into the First World War. And he's going to be very greedy, selfish, and he thinks a little bit too highly of his own military, to a point where he's going to try to challenge a lot of these countries in Europe, even if he's surrounded, right? He's going to try to go to war with France, go to war with Russia, go to war with Great Britain. Remember, Bismarck, at the start of the Franco-Prussian War, he was a little weary of Great Britain, right? He didn't want to challenge him just yet. And Bismarck tried to talk him down, tried to persuade him not to challenge Great Britain just yet. And you think Kaiser Wilhelm II listened to him? No. So what do you think happened to Bismarck? He was fired. He was just pulled from his position as Chancellor of Germany. And this disagreement caused Kaiser Wilhelm II to maybe be a little bit more threatening, okay, and try to push for this naval arms race with Great Britain. So if you're thinking about a war, obviously Great Britain's not going to be sided with Germany. Germany's challenging them in their own game, right, and their own, I guess you say, superiority of the seas. So already he's breaking ties with countries. He's not really having any type of sound relationship like Bismarck had with Great Britain. And this is going to fuel a lot of countries against Germany at this time. Does that make sense, guys, as we're building up to World War I? This new Kaiser, he's not for it, right? This new emperor of Germany, he's not looking for friends, really. All right, so the Anglo-German naval arms race. So Great Britain's policy was to do what? Stay double the amount of the next opposing challenger, right? Which was Germany. And they tried to push out as many dreadnoughts, these new modern battleships, as possible before Germany can catch up to them. And Great Britain was successful at that. But what did Germany decide to do? What did they try to weaponize and try to develop to challenge Great Britain in the seas? Griffin? Yeah, the U-boats. Good job, the submarines. And this time there was no technology to detect these submarines, these U-boats underwater. And Germany had somewhat of a clear advantage moving into the start of World War I. These submarines were very efficient, very effective out in the open waters. And with that being said, this is going to be one of the biggest issues for the United States, sending troops, armaments, supplies across the Atlantic to support the Allied powers. And for Great Britain, really to get to the battlefield in Europe. These submarines, these U-boats, they were sinking a lot of these dreadnoughts, these battleships, these boats, really taking soldiers across the English Channel, from Great Britain to France to support France in World War I. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in detail moving into the chapter and getting involved in the war a little bit more. All right, so that was the Anglo-German naval arms race. Again, Germany's outstepping their reach a little bit. Now they're challenging Great Britain at really what they dominated for hundreds of years with their navy. All right, terms for today. So we're going to finish up the two other causes, and I'll talk more about the alliance system tomorrow. So I'll just mention the alliance system that formed before World War I, and then during the war there'll be a different naming of the alliance system and more countries that will be added. All right, so the Triple Entente, Triple Alliance, Kaiser Wilhelm II, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, and Gavrilo Princip. So today's mostly focused on the assassination. Like I said, I'll briefly talk about the alliance system that was first established at the start of World War I. And then as we're getting involved in the war a little bit more, there'll be some countries that are added and some that may be taken away, getting involved more in the war. Bless you. Hey, you deliver those babies. All right, so Triple Entente. What is that? Triple Entente. Who's involved with that? Tanner, go ahead.
It's the alliance between Britain, France, and Russia.
Yeah, good job. Good job. So before the war even started, these countries are all grouping together because they see the rising power of Germany. Okay, again, Great Britain, they weren't too afraid of Germany right around mid 1800s. But moving up to the 1900s, after this naval arms race, Great Britain needed to side with someone because they knew that they couldn't compete with them on the land. They knew that there's no way. After this naval arms race, though, Germany is showing themselves as a formidable opponent out in the seas. So Great Britain needed to side with someone. And France, especially, they weren't too happy with what Germany did to them in the Franco-Prussian War, right? They embarrassed them. So France is already looking for some help. So they reach out to Great Britain and Russia. Okay, why do you think France, Great Britain, why do you think they would want to side with Russia? Where is Russia? So Russia's over here, guys, right? France is here and Great Britain's here. Makes sense for France and Great Britain. They're very close together. But why Russia? They're so far separated. You actually have to go through Germany to get there. Griffin? What's that? Okay, yeah, you're on the right track. They border Germany, but are they on the same side as France and Great Britain? Yeah, already it would start a two-front war. So Germany would have to divide up its troops, its soldiers, its armaments to fight. So already who has a clear advantage? The Triple Entente, right? So this is to try to keep Germany at bay. Make sure that they really don't become too aggressive. Right, the Triple Alliance. What do we have for the Triple Alliance? Go ahead, Tanner.
It was the alliance between Italy, Germany, and Austria-Hungary, but Italy would soon come out of that and join the Triple Entente.
All right, good job, good job. So at the start of the war, Italy, okay, they're just unified. Austria and Germany, they all group together, okay? And a lot of that just because they share a border. Italy's very close to Austria. They share a border. Austria shares a border with Germany. And Austria and Italy, they see the advancements of Germany. So why not jump on their side? Okay, they're a force to be reckoned with. If they want to try to become more modern, more advanced, they're going to group up with the most advanced country in the world at that point, which was Germany. Does that make sense, guys? Okay. All right, Kaiser Wilhelm II. I kind of talked about him already. Chloe? Yeah, good job. The last emperor, last king, Kaiser of Germany. Okay. And he is the person leading the charge in World War One. And like I said, he was kind of greedy. He saw his military just more advanced than other countries, and he tried to push it to the limit. Okay, push it to the extent where he didn't really care who he was going up against. He went in that naval arms race with Great Britain. He avoided the discussions with Otto von Bismarck, who was trying to say, hey, let's calm down. Let's not try to target Great Britain just yet. If we try to overreach our boundaries, this could be really the meaning and the side of our end. But he didn't care, right? He didn't care. He saw the advancement. He was inspired by German nationalism, and he thought German culture was just so much more advanced than really the rest of the world. Didn't matter who he went to war with, how many countries he went to war with. And that goes to show kind of their ending with this war. All right, Archduke Franz Ferdinand. We're going to talk about him today. Barb, who's Franz Ferdinand? Barbara?
He was the heir to the throne of Austria/Hungary, who was assassinated.
Yeah, good job, good job. So he was like the prince. He was the next heir to Austrian throne. And Austria, they're falling apart a little bit at this point. They weren't industrialized just yet. They were a strong army. They had a lot of people involved, but they weren't advanced. So as they're reaching down into some of these smaller countries in Southeastern Europe, this prince here, Franz Ferdinand, he tries to parade around some of these areas that they just imperialized, that they just took over. And if they're taking over a country, obviously the inhabitants aren't going to be too happy, right? So that leads to his assassination, which sparks World War One, and the alliance system pulling all these countries together to get involved in this conflict. All right, last one. You have Earl Princep. Who is he? Eddie, do you have this one?
The Sonians are shot and killed. Franz Ferdinand set the rules of World War motion.
Yeah, good job. So Princep, he was a part of the Black Hand. I should add that as a vocab term. I'll make sure it's up for tomorrow. But the Black Hand was a Serbian nationalist group. So again, Austria is reaching down into parts, imperializing territories in Southeastern Europe. And this group wasn't too happy with it. They didn't want this outside influence in their new country. So that being said, these people try to assassinate Franz Ferdinand, and they're successful, which pushes for the start of World War One, which we'll talk about today. All right, so shaping what this looks like here, the alliance system, how this is getting going here, how's this starting? So all these countries, like I mentioned, to try to protect their own borders, to try to protect their imperialistic gains, these territories outside their own borders, they might need to group together. They might need to form an alliance to protect their assets and protect their objectives, their goals. So like I said already, France and Germany, they weren't really on the same side, okay? Germany went in, destroyed them in the Franco-Prussian War, no problem. So France already had a bitter rivalry with Germany. We already said about Kaiser Wilhelm I getting crowned right in Versailles Palace in Paris. So from the beginning, Germany and France didn't like each other whatsoever. And at that same time, Kaiser Wilhelm II now, his son, he decides to challenge Great Britain in this naval arms race. Challenge Great Britain's really pure sense of nationalism, what they have a huge form of national pride in, their navy. And as they're doing that, Great Britain's not too happy with Germany, clearly, because Germany's challenging them. So they decide to side together, and they're pretty close to one another. So it just makes sense. And France relies on Great Britain a lot throughout this first war, which we'll talk about, and even the second war. But this one was kind of weird, and no one really knew why France and Great Britain would side with Russia. Like I said, where was Russia at this point? Were they a very strong country, Griffin? No, who'd they lose a war to in the early 1900s? Japan, yeah, exactly. So why would Great Britain and France want to side with Russia? Well, you can just look on it at the map. If Germany would have to fight this war, they'll already have to split up their troops, right? They're already starting in a two-front war where they have to split up their troops and soldiers, armaments, okay, supplies, fight France and Great Britain to the west and fight the Russians in the east. So from the very beginning, this was a strategic alliance between these countries to make sure that they could keep Germany at bay, to make sure that they don't become too strong and that they'd have to divide their forces from the very beginning. And then the Triple Alliance, like I said, Germany was pretty much on their own throughout this whole war, which we'll talk about. Italy's just unifying. They're becoming somewhat of a stronger world power, but they're just not there yet. Austria, we know their stance. They got defeated in 7 weeks by Germany, just 40, 50 years before this. And Austria knew that they couldn't compete with Germany. They shared a border with them, and they wanted to advance. The only way that they could advance, well, is if they joined sides with Germany. And they formed the Triple Alliance. Like I said, these names will change. Another name for the Triple Alliance would be the Central Powers. It makes sense because they're in the center part of Europe, right? So we'll talk about that here soon enough. All right, is there any questions on this alliance system here? So again, another cause to World War One because it's drawing all of these countries in together, right? It's bringing all these countries and their imperialized states to the war. All right, so the assassination. I know there's a lot here, so if you want to take a picture, you can, but it's more just like a story, really. So as Franz Ferdinand, he's the Prince of Austria. As you're imperializing areas in southeastern Europe, they're trying to inspire nationalism, right? They're trying to boost their morale, boost the spirits of the people. And the only way to do that at that moment was to take over more land. So they marched down into Serbia, marched down into, it's called modern day Croatia, but where Bosnia is located. And they take it over pretty easily, no problem, okay? And again, they're doing this to try to spur up nationalism, try to boost morale of the people as they're taking over more land. But we all know that these people that are just forming their new country in southeastern Europe, they're not too happy when Austria steps down in their land, takes it over. They don't even speak the same language. They don't even have the same culture. So they're not going to be too happy when an outside force just steps in and expands their sphere of influence in their own country. So Franz Ferdinand decides, well, let's just have a parade, right? Let's just try to group people together. Everybody loves parades. And we can try to form some sort of nationalism there, unite the people under the Austrian crown. Do you think that's going to work? No, not at all. Not at all. So Franz Ferdinand, he's traveling down into Bosnia. And as he's traveling through the streets, there a bomb just gets hurled from the streets, from the sidewalks, really. And it just misses Franz Ferdinand's car. It blows up, and luckily the driver saw it and he takes off. Okay. And as they stop, they kind of just gather themselves. You're like, oh, can't believe we almost got killed right there. We're parading in someone else's country. Clearly that's going to happen. So they kind of reconvene at a hospital, see if they have any damages or anything like that. And they decide to take off again, continue the parade. So after your life was already threatened, would you try to continue? Kale, would you just pack it up and go home? Yeah, I probably would have too. But no, not Franz Ferdinand. He decides to try to unite the people even more. So his driver actually takes a wrong turn. And as he's traveling down the street, Gavrilo Princip, who was a part of the Black Hand, the Serbian nationalist group, okay, he was taking a drink. He was actually at the bar, boozing it up, because he was a part of that first assassination attempt that didn't work. And as he's taking a drink at the bar, he looks out the window and he sees the car coming with Franz Ferdinand. He's like, oh, this is perfect. This is exactly what I wanted to do. Okay, I missed my first attempt, but here he comes again. So he comes running out the car, or sorry, running out the bar, and takes a shot and kills Franz Ferdinand and his wife. And this assassination leads to many of these countries forming these alliances and pulling this alliance system together. So Germany is obviously going to side with Austria. Russia is going to side with Serbia. And all these countries get drawn into this war. I'll talk about that more tomorrow because it gets a little confusing. And we'll kind of resemble it to a barroom fight scene, which makes more sense. But here's a picture of what it looks like. There's Franz Ferdinand. He almost looks like he's pulling his wife in front of him, like a meat shield almost. Like, oh, protect me from the bullet.
Did you just say
Meat shield, yeah. Been watching too much. Yeah, I've been playing too much Gears of War here. Sorry. So yeah, Franz Ferdinand looks like he's actually pulling his wife in front of him to protect himself, which is kind of crazy. But there's Gavrilo Princip. He's taking the shot. Again, a part of the Black Hand. I'll make sure I have that vocab term up for tomorrow for you guys. But again, it's just a Serbian nationalist group. It's almost like a terrorist group in a way, right? They're trying to push out the Austrian leadership and rule in their own land. And here's a picture of the two. So Franz Ferdinand on the left, nice mustache. Griffin, you should grow something out like that. What do you think? Curl them up. And then you have Princip to the right. Okay, he's a pretty young guy. Again, part of the Black Hand. He was arrested instantly. And we'll talk more tomorrow about how this kind of kicks off and how these alliances are all drawn together. How these countries all get involved from this assassination. All right, is there any questions? You guys good with that? Yeah. All right, so again, another cause to World War I. So we really finished them all up. We have militarism, we have the alliance system, nationalism, imperialism, and now the assassination. Mania, right? Mania. I'll have a graphic organizer for you probably Friday or tomorrow, where you can kind of group that together and make sure you remember them all. All right. What's that?
Was the meat shield pregnant?
Yeah, she was actually. Yeah, so
Yeah, Mr. Shutdown.
knocked 3 of them out at once. Can you imagine that?
One shot.
Holy cow.
Triple kill.
Triple kill, yeah. Princip.